Nobody asked for this. Nobody asked me to answer Reddit questions about architecture or architects. But here I am on a very late night on Friday after a long work day, doing my best and my utmost duty to answer questions. So let's head right into it. This is totally unscripted, off the cuff. It's really my own personal opinions and my thoughts, and I just want to have fun, answering questions. And I thought, why not spend the Friday night answering questions on Reddit? So I'm here on Reddit and I'm looking at R architects. So this is the best place to find all these queries. I'm going to scroll down and just see what really pops up at me. Everyone go apply for this stupid job. Check out this job from JP Morgan Chase & Co. LinkedIn jobs view. Okay, let's see this. I think I know where this is going. Let's press this for fun. Yeah, so I'm looking at the LinkedIn of a lead architect, and guess what? It's not a lead architect for, the conventional architect, but also, if I press clearly more, as a lead architect at JP Morgan Chase within the community, consumer, and banking infrastructure and architecture. Come on, guys, we are in 2024. This is not what we should be writing for a job description. If you're not we do not even call ourselves building architect. We just are an architect. You know how many times and how many months, how many years we spent to do all the documentation of how do we spend time to gain all the knowledge, the project knowledge, and building code regulations, and so many interviews and examinations that we have done just to become an architect. And now I see this, this job posting. It used to make me feel frustrated, but nowadays I'm just a bit immune to it. Maybe it's not the best, right? But what can we do as architects, to put a message across? This designation and of a word architect has to be well respected. And there's so many things and derivatives of architects, like software architect. You can call yourself a software architect, you can call yourself an infrastructure architect. I mean, that is still okay, but the word architect by itself solely belongs to building architects like me and like those architects around the world. I don't even call myself a building architect, I just call myself an architect, and rightfully so. And I'm pretty sure any architect around the world doesn't really like to see this type of job postings. You look at the job responsibilities and you just need to scroll down to the required qualifications and skills, and then this is not for architecture graduates or even architects. It's totally a different ball game. This is not even architecture. This is just, coding, IT. Okay, now I see why it is called a stupid job. Alright, let's go back. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Let's see. Okay. Architects who are client-facing. When did you tell your clients your parental leave plans? Okay, this is talking about, when you're about to expect a baby. I have one primary project where I'm both the project manager and project architect. One of my firm's owners is somewhat involved, but he's really busy and has not been keeping a close touch for the past several months. I am definitely the face of this project. The developer is really reliant on me. Okay, I'm planning to tell my owners in 2 weeks when I hit 12 weeks. Oh, okay, a trimester. At the last meeting, we're discussing timing for bidding. Oh my god, this is the worst. Bidding and construction start, which is right around, well, I'll probably go on leave. I haven't said anything yet, and I'm not worried about the project because I'm sure any one of my capable colleagues can fill in, but I feel that I put a lot of effort in building these relationships, and I don't want them to feel blindsided. How early did you let your client or contractor team know that you'll be out on the maternal parental leave? Firstly, I'm not, expecting, but in Singapore, we do have parental care leave, let alone leave, like overseas leave, So the timing of these things, sometimes we can't control. That's a fact. And also, the owners is involved, but he's busy, and you are the main point of contact. And I'm pretty sure you will see, the belly, you'll be being pregnant and expecting a kid. I just hope that the owner, your colleague, is gonna take over you. I don't expect you to be working in your last trimester, or even when you are expecting and you have delivered a child. In Singapore, I believe you got a few months of leave, maternal leave. So nobody expects you to, run around the site. Yes, you can walk around the site. I've seen architects, with huge bellies and, walking around the site. And that is quite commendable. But once you're really close to the expectant date, right, I'm speaking for myself. If I'm a client, I wouldn't expect the architect to be highly involved with the project. I would definitely expect somebody else to take over. So good luck. I mean, let's see the comments. Okay, there's some people was questioning like, hello, you need to tell them in advance. Yeah. In fact, the developer has even sent a gift for my baby. So cute. Sometimes when is these type of relationships, and they care about you as a person and not just an architect, not just a worker or like your slave sometimes, but it's the personal relationships that you have with the client. Sometimes you don't talk about the project all the time. You can also bring them for lunch. You can just chit chat and get to know their lives. Sometimes they share a lot of interesting stories that you will never get unless you talk to them in person. So that's really interesting. I guess they started to see the belly when it was so obvious. Yeah, this is their replies. Overall, quite positive. Nobody really expects you to work I think probably the last trimester where it's really, really painful, there's like contractions and everything, and it's really heavy to carry the baby and walk around the site, especially when the site is still so, the terrain is not good for walking. I'm pretty sure most of your employers and clients really expect you to take care of yourself before the project. When you're pregnant. Moving on. Let's see. I'm going to answer maybe, 5 to 6 more. Let's see how long I have. So now it's like about 12:20 a.m. in the morning. I'm going to answer some questions. So let's go down. Career decision. Okay, let's go. Hello, I hope everyone's doing well. I graduated from an accredited architecture program a few years ago and moved out of college town. After graduating, I worked at a large company under licensed architects, but I unfortunately let go. So sorry to hear that. COVID was a really difficult time for architects especially, and not even architects but also employees in general. So it's really unfortunate to hear that you were let go. He then applied and got a job at a specialty design and build firm. Okay, design and build is interesting, where I actually got to do more design and drawing than my previous job. It's a smaller company, so the size of the company matters. I do not work under a licensed architect. Oh, okay. But I'm still a part of the AIA because of my degree. Alright, how this is a design and build, so it may not be an architect, but there should be a signing architect nonetheless. I also worked under a mechanical engineer as well, and other licensed architects doing internships. Having said that, I live close to work and mostly enjoy the day-to-day work that I do. Not sure if anybody else has been in this situation before. Any kind of help is appreciated. So it really depends on angle, like this guy says. If you want to be a licensed architect, working under one will give you the most exposure, and subsequently all the AIA documents. So I'm based in Singapore, and AIA is, either it's the American Institute of Architects or Australian Institute of Architects. So please comment if you know this acronym. But anyway, yeah, I wanted to just share a little bit more about my journey and how I had to make certain career decisions along the way. You need to click this video to know about what I do and my architecture journey and life story. So somewhere on top. But to cut the story short, I had to make decisions as well. I worked in 2 firms to get the journaling. So for Singapore, we have to do a logbook of 24 months, a continuous period of 12 months to actually log down your project experience, be it from the start of the project all the way to the end of the project. So right now, in that video, I will share a bit more about the story of what I did and where I worked and how did I pivot from one firm to another firm. But those are the decisions that I made in my own career that I had to figure out what is my end goal. So what do I really want to learn as an architect? Could it be the building typologies, like residential versus military versus industrial versus commercial, mixed use, all of these different typologies? You can also maybe thinking about, do I want to be a licensed architect? Right? That could be a question that you have in mind. So ultimately, it's how you feel where you are right now and what makes you happy and what makes you tick. And I know these things change over time, but the more you figure out what you want to do, the more you know what you want to do. That is, okay, let me say that again. The more experience you go through, the challenges you face, the issues you overcome, things that you learn about yourself will actually influence the way you think and the way you feel about your current work. So if you feel that you're being fulfilled, definitely keep going in that direction. But if you feel that the inkling to do something else, I recommend go for it. Take the chance to pivot, to change careers. So especially in 2024, where architects, there are more diversified roles other than being the conventional architect, I would say just go with a gut. Make the decision you want to make. Right. Alright, let's go to the next one. I'm going to scroll down a little bit more. Okay, I have another post. Look at this one. Okay, before we talk about this post, the headline is already catchy. It's so hard to attract and retain talent. Okay, let's read this. This is sarcasm. The number of people who cannot understand this blows my mind. Okay, let's read this. Read the bottom first. The original post. Okay, he is a developer-driven architect and built a large firm of over 20 years. Okay. It's obviously satire. We pride ourselves on delivering cookie-cutter projects, right? Now that everyone's in office, I have had high attrition rates. I'm hearing that folks cannot afford to live close to our beautiful offices. They're dealing with hour-long commutes and seem to be frazzled and stressed out every morning. That's what I'm hearing from managers on a monthly or sometimes quarterly Teams check-in. I have had a couple of employees leave recently and they emphasize that it's nothing to do with me or the firm. How can I be a great boss? What else can I do to attract and incentivize my workers to stay on board? I would love to hear your thoughts. Okay. This is some quality satire. Yeah. I would love to work for you. Only request is you hold a daily BIM standards meeting at lunch. Okay, this is triggering because how do you like lunch and learn? So basically, there's some architecture firms that I've been to, and maybe an internship or maybe even kind of like now, where there are like sharing sessions. When you eat, right? you eat lunch, and then there is also an ongoing sharing session on maybe somebody is invited, an architect or maybe a product supplier. The best part is that product supplier will sponsor your lunch which you're eating, and then you're listening to the sponsor. So it's kind of like a paid ad, but never mind, that is kind of like how the world works sometimes, right? You pay for your attention. So I've been through a lunch and learn. I have mixed feelings. Sometimes I really learn a lot from that sponsor that could be talking about paints, like paint, and also I've been through lunch and learn with maybe talking about waterproofing and things like expansion joints and so all these product suppliers come and to visit us or at our office or maybe virtually, then sponsor our lunch. So that's called lunch and learn if you're still figuring out. And this guy is obviously making a joke, but it's that on the one part, yeah, you have free lunch, right? Okay. And holding meetings every day during lunch, like forcing your employees to come and sit down and listen. On the one hand, okay, yes, you can do it once in a while, but don't think that this is the only way to engage your employees by giving them free lunches. That's my main point. There's so many other things you can do in a workplace, be it project management, proper project management, delegating work correctly, making sure you have enough overhead to cover, and also give them bonuses, give them recognition. Also, highlight the achievements in the team. Maybe have some opportunities for each other to learn, sharing mistakes, sharing key findings in your projects. So many different ways to retain talent. And I would like to say that, I'm sure there's more and more architects leaving the industry. Not to any other firm, but to other industries. So that is something that is critical that we have to solve as an architecture fraternity. Be it not in Singapore, but also beyond, it is a global problem, and I see it because there are a few issues. One, low fees, right? Not enough to cover. Sometimes we don't recognize we are pricing ourselves too low, and that could not be the architect's fault sometimes, but when you estimate and you bid for a project, so many different things to consider. There is the tangible cost, like how many hours you spend on the project to go for meetings, to spend time to do the drawings, the renders, the feasibility studies, and everything like that. How about the intangible cost, right? You spend time to do something that ultimately for a developer helps them in their own business as well. So for an architect to price themselves well, I recommend firstly to be very clear of all of the different items that constitutes to the physical and maybe the tangible costs of running the business. Of course, time and cost. So it could be, subscription of your Revit software, CPF contribution, which is like the Singapore Endowment Fund that you need to give, employees need to give to employees. Things like office space, a rental space, things like transport fees, So when especially when you're dealing with multiple projects, right, you have to see how to delegate and ensure that ultimately that the fee bid, that consultancy fees that you put out to the client is enough to cover projects and people working on the projects for a long period of time. And during COVID, unfortunately, there were a lot of prolongation costs. Prolongation costs means when the project is being extended, the deadline is being pushed back because of so many delays due to COVID. For example, how about consultants, right? Sometimes the contractors have their own mechanisms of extension of time, and then so that they don't get liquidated damages. That's another topic for another day. But to cut the story short, that is how consultants, architects even multidisciplinary teams can work together to put a proper fee bid to keep ourselves afloat and maybe thrive. We need to put all the business costs and the intangible costs, which is like what value can we bring to clients that justifies the fees. And I think in Singapore, we are going to launch the value articulation framework, and it's not just about price fixing, but it's more about the awareness of what to factor in when you price. Price is a very dirty word, but when you want to for the scope of works, you need to be very clear what is required of you as a consultant, the scope of works, the scope of services, and make sure you capture that in your bid. Wow, this is a very mouthful, and I hope you got that message. Okay, I have one good post here. Do architects have any ability to prevent value engineering? Okay, when working with a client or developer, how much sway does an architect usually have in trying to maintain material or design quality? When a developer wants to cut corners on the design, can an architecture firm push back? What does the relationship between the developer and architect usually look like? Okay, so first thing, what is value engineering? Value engineering is the exercise that architects and the developers go through together to find ways to, increase the value by reducing the cost. So by achieving the same kind of outcome and, design intent, maybe changing the materials or, simplifying the design, that itself is called the value engineering. And what the objective is, ultimately is to reduce cost, such that the construction cost of the project is reduced while maintaining the design intent and also the durability, and make sure that whatever is specified in the tender documents still meets the requirements. And it depends for projects. So for consultants, some of the way we get paid is by a percentage of the construction cost. So that's a very key thing to take note, because if you perform this value engineering exercise, be close to the tender, before tender, right? Obviously, when the developer realizes that the tender estimate is too high from the consultant, right? And they want to find ways to reduce it for the budget. So architects and quantity surveyors, engineers spend time to go through this exercise to reduce the cost for the construction of the project. That being said, the time taken to do this, must be, paid. It has to be, it's man hours used to do this exercise to help you, the developer and client, to reduce your cost and to make sure that it's within the budget. How about our time and our efforts to do that? So this is kind of like a controversial but debatable kind of topic, because not many countries or even government agencies or even the private developers recognize the fact that architects and engineers spend time to reduce the cost through this value engineering exercise. That being said as well, I know that the Singapore Institute of Architects is working on it. We have to educate clients, to give remuneration or give the fees where it's due. And the way we craft our consultancy agreements, that should be mandated, because ultimately, if let's say for example you're helping a government project, you are a taxpayer paying money for building projects. Okay, you as a taxpayer would like to know whether your projects, like infrastructure projects, maybe housing blocks, public housing, is constructed in the most reasonable amount. That means you don't overspend. Government agencies may want to perform these type of exercises to make sure that we meet the tender budget. So the desired outcome is to make sure that you're not overspending. And I'm sure once, all of the, hopefully you guys are listening, if you're a developer, if you're a client, listen from our point of view that we spend so much time just to do this for you. You're not asking for much, maybe just 1% or 2% of the cost that we reduce. I don't know. It'll be a way to get some sort of remuneration for this. Currently, it's not being written very clearly in the consultancy agreement between the developer and the client. So, can an architecture firm push back? I've never encountered this personally, but I've heard stories about architects. No, I don't want to do this. It's why must I do it? It's not even, you're not paying me to do this, and at the expense of worsening the relationship between you, the architect, as well as the client. Let's see what people are saying. Okay, this is so the other point of view. Is after all his budget. He can. So I'm also aware of the different. That's my phone. But anyway, don't worry. The architect's billing milestone, right? From the very start, different stages at different percentage. If you are wanting to fight back, one of the risks that you may face is the client may just terminate the contract, and then they just stop the milestone there. They have every right to do so. They can also, so this is usually happening before a tender. They can stop your services, engaging you in the services, unless you may have a termination clause inside, which is also a key when you do your consultancy agreement. That is how we can protect ourselves as an architect or even a multidisciplinary team. Yes. But after all, it's his budget. So if it doesn't build, if you don't help the client, the other side of the coin is he may not want to construct this thing. So I've also encountered clients that had to pull out because they didn't have enough budget, and we had to terminate, the consultancy agreement. We had all of this is from my own project experience. We had building plan approval. We are ready to construct. We have tender out already. At that point in time in COVID, there was not enough budget to construct. I think it was some dormitories for the workers. For the developer side. So that is how I personally know that it is also very important to make sure that as far as possible, go through the project from start to finish with the same consultant, and then you get the different billing milestones along the way. So if you are very sure that the client will listen to you, you may go ahead and argue and say, hey, pay me money. But if you're not sure, you have to think twice about it, because he may just terminate you anytime. So value engineering is part of the design process. And sometimes when it's more successful, you make the project more efficient. Sometimes this person has looked back and realized that the decisions making during VE has forced us to simplify and tighten up. Ultimately you have to find a compromise. Compromise in terms of either getting paid or as some sort of recognition. There is still an ongoing debate. Ultimately, you need to communicate with your client, ask him his concerns, and tell him your concern as well. Not everybody should work for free, but sometimes it could be the first project of many projects with the same client, so you never know. I'll just answer one more question. Let's see. I got a very interesting question on Reddit. Are these property lines considered side or rear in regards to setbacks? Okay, so you're looking at a landed house for a plot of land, right? There are usually these diagonal lines. Sometimes it could be diagonal lines, but sometimes you may have a very, not very clearly defined rear. So when you're talking about side and rear, you need to talk about setbacks. Setbacks between the property line as well as the building massing. I will not go into details with relating to Singapore architecture, but it really depends on the building code in your country. There may be some requirements, but to me, it looks like you need to set back this yellow line up, set back here as well, and set back here as well, because this point and this point is where the property lines of both, the adjacent plot meets your plot. So this is the point that I think these three lines you offset. So this massing might, hopefully it could be an appendage, but it has to create the setback with these 3 lines in the cursor right now. I also think in Singapore we need to have another side setback. So that will be discussed in another video. If you want a video about Singapore building codes, and also diving in deeper to master planning or urban planning, planning parameters, that could be the topic of another video. But I just found interesting that people are asking this on Reddit. Yeah. Let's see what other people are saying. Like what I said previously, every I don't know this word. Come on, guys. Municipality is different. Yeah. Basically, it's just saying that different countries have different requirements. Yeah, I agree with this guy. I believe the three sides are considered rear because it's really behind. Okay, yeah. If you want me to go through this in detail, I can look at the URA, which is the Urban Redevelopment Authority's requirements for this, but not today, another time. Subscribe and comment if you need the video to explain all this. Okay, maybe just one more question before I go to sleep. Alright, mid-career plateau. Any tips on how to transcend a senior project related role to an associate principal or principal role? I noticed that there are people who remain senior architect for a decade or more. What should my focus be? I've heard business development, studio initiatives, external influence. What moved the needle for you? So I'm at a stage when I'm the senior executive architect. Still considered as executive, but usually when you're at mid-career, it is a point in time when you evaluate your competencies, your skills, and also your knowledge. You can consider specializing in a certain area like sustainability, even AI, even the use of BIM, VDC, and like things like business development, and working in the company like a management level. So, but some people remain a senior architect because they love the role, they love being an architect. But from a senior architect to a principal, I think you need to be really involved in the management side of things, and also to be competent in an architectural role. Make sure you're able to lead projects from start to finish. You make sure you need to know your building code, all the materials and specifications, your tender drawing standards, compliance requirements, making sure you know the design brief and how to meet them. You also need to be at the forefront when you meet the client face to face and explain to them, some things, decisions that you make, or certain recommendations you want to give for a certain key decision for the design. And that is how we see, that's how I see somebody from a senior architect role go into a principal role. You take on the leadership of the project. You are driving the projects. You are also the one bringing in the projects. Like, you have clients looking for you, looking to work with you, and that also is could be a reason why companies may want to promote you to become a principal, because you are the key person in bringing the contracts to the company. Yeah, the other way is, to diversify and to say, oh, I specialize in a certain aspect, like sustainability, use of technology, AI, maybe you're an educator in the company. That could also be your unique selling point, USP, and how you bring value to the company. Not just being an architect, but also an architect and more. And that's how you become a principal or an associate principal. So that's it for the video. I hope you enjoyed me ranting or even sharing about my experiences or even my thoughts about the industry. Again, this is totally uncuffed, off the cuff, and as after a long work day. So that is it for the video. Thank you for watching and subscribe for more. Bye.